I, 24-year-old female, am married to my husband, 25-year-old male. We have been together for 8 years and married for 1. We recently bought a house over a month ago, but we have been looking for 3 years due to the economy. He has never been the most helpful with our apartment, but he swore things would change. Fast forward to now, and to no surprise, he is little to no help. He does not clean up after himself, except for his own laundry. I expected this, as I watched my mother do this throughout her entire marriage. I don't know why I thought mine would be any different. Regardless, this wasn't my breaking point. My breaking point is the stupid decision he made to get a breed of dog that I told him he should not own. We both work. I work from home and bring in most of the income, while he works hard in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. My job is the most important in terms of being able to pay for everything we need to survive. He wanted a dog, and I did too. I picked a hound from the shelter. She is not perfect, but she's not a bad dog. He wanted his own dog, so we got another one since we have 2.5 acres of land. I only requested that there be no issues with my dog and that she could have a friend. I told him to research what kind of dog would be best for him. He said he decided he wanted a husky or German shepherd. I asked if he did research. Of course not. He thinks they are cute. I explained why he should research the dog he wants and that huskies and shepherds are known for being high energy and needing lots of work and attention, which we don't have the time for. So what does he do? He goes and picks out a full Siberian husky. She is sweet and all, but she does typical husky things. She gets bored and tears things up, specifically my things. She has ruined so many of my belongings, costing me a lot of money, which he can't pay back because he doesn't make good financial decisions. His dog interrupts my work and creates extra work for me as I clean up after her messes. Tonight, I reached my breaking point. We went out to run errands and had to crate her due to her shredding issues. She broke through the crate and not only destroyed the trash, but also ruined a bunch of my belongings. She even peed on the floor. I lost my composure. I called him a jerk for not caring and expecting me to be the one to train and entertain his dog. I also mentioned that he is intentionally stupid for not doing research when I specifically told him to. I'm tired of doing everything alone, and I wanted a partner, not another responsibility. He does nothing, and I can't take it anymore. I said a lot of terrible things that I won't repeat, and now I am sitting in a gas station parking lot 20 miles from home because I feel so defeated. I have nowhere else to go, and I don't want to go home because I'm just overreacting like I always do, and I will eventually cool off and act normal again. Am I the jerk? Now for an update. Answering some questions first. There are no kids involved, and I don't want kids at all. To clarify, his dog is a 3.5-year-old husky, not a puppy doing puppy things. I went back home at like 3 a.m. We talked things out and decided to seek counseling. However, he said he doesn't want to do anything like cleaning or helping because I make him feel like he does everything wrong, and he has been bottling up his emotions. So that's where we stand right now. I'm feeling kind of numb. I didn't mention in the original post, but I am showing physical signs of stress, stomach issues, acne, and significant weight loss. I pointed out these symptoms as well. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The comments on here seem rather unkind. You are young and learning, you are in pain and dealing with a difficult situation. You accidentally repeated a pattern you saw in your own family, a trap many of us fall into even if we're actively trying to break the pattern. You are right that you are managing too much in the relationship and he is irresponsible. I don't know what the rest of the relationship is like. What does he bring to the table? Is he very loving? Selfless in other ways? If so, counseling might be worth a try. If not, it is time to end the relationship and you will know what you want from the next relationship and the type of partnership to build with someone. Sending you lots of love, OP. You will find someone worthy of your love and effort. Comment 2. But swore it would change. And you believed him? That was your first mistake. Why did you marry a man baby you already knew you had to mother? And he specifically chose a dog you advised against. So not only does he not help, he doesn't even listen. Then he gaslights you about overreacting to his worthless butt? This is not a life. Do you want your mother's life? Do you want to be a bang maid for the rest of your life? Just call it a failed experiment and move on. And do not have a kid with this man baby. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. After our talk and deciding to seek counseling, I thought things might get better. We had our first session last Tuesday, and it was eye-opening. The therapist suggested we both needed to communicate better and set clear expectations. My husband admitted he felt overwhelmed by my criticism and that it made him shut down. I realized I might have been too harsh, but I was also frustrated by his lack of effort. We agreed to try and be more understanding of each other's feelings. The next day, I decided to take a step back and give him some space to show initiative. I didn't nag him about the chores or the dogs. I focused on my work and tried to stay calm. By Thursday, I noticed he was making an effort. He cleaned up the kitchen without me asking and even took the husky for a long walk. It felt like a small victory, and I was hopeful. But then, on Friday, everything went downhill. I had an important video conference for work, and I needed absolute quiet. I reminded him the night before and asked him to keep the dogs occupied. He promised he would. However, during the meeting, the husky started howling and scratching at the door. I tried to ignore it, but it was impossible. My boss noticed and asked if everything was okay. I was mortified. After the meeting, I found my husband in the garage, tinkering with his tools. The dogs were running rough in the yard. I lost it. I yelled at him for not keeping his promise and for making me look unprofessional. He snapped back, saying he was doing his best and that I was never satisfied. We had a huge fight, and I ended up leaving the house again, this time to stay with a friend. Over the weekend, I had time to think. I realized I might have made a mistake by expecting him to change overnight. I also understood that I needed to manage my stress better. My friend suggested I take a break from work and focus on my health. I decided to take her advice and requested a week off. When I returned home on Sunday, my husband and I had another talk. He apologized for not being more attentive, and I apologized for my outburst. We agreed to try and support each other better. He promised to take more responsibility for the dogs, and I promised to be more patient. On Monday, I decided to take the husky to a professional trainer. I figured if we could get her behavior under control, it would reduce a lot of stress. The trainer was great and gave us some tips on how to manage her energy. My husband seemed on board with the plan, and we started implementing the trainer's advice. By Wednesday, things were looking up. The husky was calmer, and my husband was more involved in the training. We even had a pleasant evening together, watching a movie and talking about our future. It felt like we were finally on the same page. But then, on Thursday, I discovered something that changed everything. I was going through some old paperwork in the office when I found a letter from my husband's employer. It was a warning about his performance at work. Apparently, he had been missing deadlines and making mistakes. I confronted him about it, and he admitted he had been struggling at work for months. He was afraid to tell me because he didn't want to add to my stress. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I was angry that he kept this from me, but I was also sad that he felt he couldn't confide in me. It made me realize how disconnected we had become. We talked about it, and he admitted he was feeling overwhelmed by everything: the house, the dogs, and his job. He said he felt like a failure and didn't know how to fix it. I suggested he take some time off work to focus on his mental health. He agreed, and we decided to tackle our problems together. We made a plan to divide the chores and set aside time for each other. We also decided to continue with counseling and work on our communication. As we worked through our issues, I started to reflect on our past. I remembered how supportive he was when I started my job and how he encouraged me to pursue my dreams. I realized that somewhere along the way, we had lost sight of what brought us together. We were so focused on our individual struggles that we forgot to support each other. I also thought about my own upbringing and how my mother did everything for my father. I realized I was repeating the same pattern, expecting my husband to change without giving him the support he needed. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it made me more determined to break the cycle. By the end of the week, we were in a better place. We still had a long way to go, but we were committed to making it work. I felt hopeful for the first time in a long time. We decided to take things one day at a time and focus on the small victories. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for calling my partner selfish when they didn't want me to cover a coworker's shift? Hey, so I'm a surgical nurse. Sometimes my schedule is awesome and sometimes it can get busy. It's a part of the job, haha. Anyways, it hasn't really affected much about our relationship so far. I attend all her family events and gatherings I get invited to, and we spend a lot of time together during the week or weekend both. I always find time to be with her. Now, next weekend is her parents' birthday party on Saturday. I've been working a lot these past 2 weeks, but that's mainly because I asked for a couple days off during that weekend and on Friday too, so we can help with prep if needed. Today, I woke up to a call from my boss. My coworker's mom suddenly died. I'm 28, this coworker is around 30. Her mom was still a young, healthy woman. But they were out by a swimming pool and she had a heart attack, if I understood it correctly. They did cardiopulmonary resuscitation on her with paramedics for an hour, but unfortunately, it didn't help. My boss asked me to come in this Wednesday instead of this coworker. I said yes, of course, that's not an issue. Give her all the time she needs to grieve. This coworker also has a Sunday shift, and I said in case no one can take that shift. We are seriously understaffed, I can come in, but I'll be after the party, so maybe a bit tired, huh? It could work. I just have to leave the party early, which starts in the afternoon. Like I would leave around midnight to get a couple hours of sleep. But since that call, my girlfriend was cold to me, telling me there's no way I'm taking the Sunday shift, etc. I tried to explain there's only a very minimal chance I will have to, but in case I have to, I will obviously cover for this person. This coworker is one of the few people that always helped me when I needed help. The whole morning was terrible. She was angry and I told her she's being selfish. That stuff like this happens and we need to be at least a bit empathetic. Then she went off at me saying my boss isn't stupid for doing what she can to keep me from leaving for a different hospital. Because I'm always ready to come and work and I'm always doing all the work that has to be done at work without complaining, etc. Basically calling me a pushover, which I'm very far from. I'm pretty well respected by all the senior doctors because I speak my mind always and stand up for myself and others. After listening to this and arguing about me helping someone whose mom just died, I got angry too. Told her I got enough of this selfish behavior. This isn't the first time she's like this. For example, we only been to 2 events on my family side, and both times I saw my brothers after a long time, and we would be having fun and she'd keep hurrying me to go home. And then she would make a scene in front of my family because at 6 p.m. I wanted to stay an hour longer. Then she went to leave my place. And so I just said, okay, I'm done dealing with this, and let her leave. I haven't been responding to her texts since, but she's saying she feels like anything she does is always bad in my eyes, etc. And I was just thinking, did I overreact? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. She's definitely one-sided, isn't she? Imagine not being allowed to spend time with your family or help out a grieving friend who just lost their mother. Then there's the professional aspect that she's given no consideration to. Also that you give all your attention to her? I'm wondering how she treats restaurant staff, to be honest. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Not gonna lie, bro, watch yourself. You seem like a stand-up dude, and your girlfriend isn't an evil witch, but her attitude isn't helping either. Not a jerk for letting her leave. I wouldn't cut things short so suddenly, though. Now for the update. Hey, thanks for all the comments from the last post. So, after that argument with my girlfriend, things got even more complicated. I ended up taking the Sunday shift because no one else could cover it. I left the party early, just like I said I would, and she was visibly upset when I told her I had to go. I tried to explain again, but she just walked away. I went to work feeling pretty crappy about the whole situation. The next day, I got a text from her saying she needed some space to think things over. I didn't know what to make of it, but I figured it was best to give her the time she asked for. I focused on work and tried to keep myself busy. A few days later, she called me and asked if we could meet up to talk. I agreed, hoping we could sort things out. When we met, she told me she had been feeling neglected and unimportant. She said that my job always seemed to come first and that she felt like she was always playing second fiddle. I tried to explain that my job is demanding and that I do my best to balance everything, but she wasn't having it. She said she needed more from me and that she wasn't sure if I could give her that. I was taken aback. I thought I was doing a good job of balancing work and our relationship, but clearly I was missing something. I asked her what she needed from me, and she said she wanted me to be more present and to prioritize our relationship more. She said she felt like I was always on call and that it was hard for her to plan anything because she never knew when I might have to work. I told her I understood where she was coming from and that I would try to make more of an effort. we agreed to take things one day at a time and see how it goes. A few days later, I had a conversation with my boss about my schedule. I explained that I needed to find a better work-life balance and that I couldn't keep taking on extra shifts. My boss was understanding and said she would try to find a way to make it work. I felt relieved and hopeful that things might start to improve. But then something happened that changed everything. One of my patients, a young woman in her early 20s, came in for a routine surgery. Everything seemed to be going well until she suddenly went into cardiac arrest. We did everything we could to save her, but she didn't make it. I was devastated. It was a stark reminder of how fragile life is and how quickly things can change. I went home that night and couldn't stop thinking about the young woman and her family. I realized that I had been so focused on my job and my responsibilities that I had been neglecting the people who mattered most to me. I thought about my girlfriend and how she must have felt when I kept putting work before her. I felt a deep sense of regret and knew I needed to make some changes. The next day, I called my girlfriend and asked if we could talk. I told her about the young woman and how it had made me realize that I needed to prioritize the people I love. I apologized for not being there for her and promised to do better. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said she appreciated my honesty and that she was willing to give it another try. We started spending more time together and making an effort to communicate better. I made sure to set boundaries with work and not take on extra shifts unless absolutely necessary. Things were starting to improve, but it wasn't easy. There were still moments of tension and frustration, but we were both committed to making it work. One night, we were talking about our families, and she opened up about her childhood. She told me that her parents had always put their careers first, and that she often felt like she was an afterthought. She said she didn't want our relationship to be like that, and that she needed to feel like a priority. It was a revelation for me. I realized that her need for attention and validation came from a place of deep-seated insecurity and fear of being neglected. I shared some of my own experiences growing up, how my parents had always been there for me, and how I wanted to be that kind of partner for her. We talked about our fears and insecurities and how we could support each other better. It was a turning point in our relationship. We started to understand each other on a deeper level and became more empathetic and supportive. As the weeks went by, we continued to work on our relationship. I made a conscious effort to be more present and to show her that she was important to me. She started to trust me more and to feel more secure in our relationship. We still had our ups and downs, but we were both committed to making it work. Looking back, I realized that the argument we had was a wake-up call for both of us. It forced us to confront our issues and to make changes that ultimately brought us closer together. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. We're still a work in progress, but we're stronger and more connected than ever. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for yelling at my wife for eating our son's fries? My fries were stolen, and I want to know if I was wrong in the way I handled it. My son, 15 years old, asked if we would pick up some McDonald's for lunch while we were out. My wife, 49 years old, had already eaten, and we had food at home. So she said if he wanted fast food, he could spend his own money on it. My wife and I swing by the McDonald's drive-thru, and because I have not yet eaten, she places our son's order and a combo for me. She does not order anything for herself. When we pull up to the window, she begins to put on hand sanitizer, and I ask if she's going to eat other people's fries. She says yes. This is an old habit that we've had friction about before, but not for several years. She knows that it drives me crazy, and that I would much prefer her to order something for herself, rather than eating the food that I ordered. Had I known I would be ordering for two, I would have ordered differently. My wife begins to eat fries from the bag with glee, and I am asking her why she thinks that is okay. She says, I'm only eating one, and then of course proceeds to eat a dozen more. She says that she is not eating my fries, but is eating our son's fries. I remind her that he likes fries and wanted McDonald's enough to offer to pay for it with his own money. She has at this point eaten half of his fries, so she takes a handful from mine and fills his back up. I need to take medicine before I eat, so I am waiting the 5 minutes until we get home to eat. Meanwhile, she is reaching into the bag and continuing to eat French fries. Each time I ask her to stop, she says, "It's not a big deal," or "Just one more." I can feel myself fuming as she continues eating my food while I wait to eat. After what has to be at least the fourth or fifth time I ask her to stop eating my food, she says, "You're being kind of a jerk." And I say, voice raised and frustrated, "Because you won't stop eating my freaking French fries." At this point, she looks wounded, goes quiet, and ditches the plans we had to go look at cars later in the afternoon, instead giving me the cold shoulder all day. She had been in good spirits as she was eating my food, and her demeanor changed completely when I got upset. I don't doubt that I hurt her feelings, and it probably embarrassed her somewhat. I didn't like it either. When I ask what is the matter, she just says she doesn't enjoy being yelled and cursed at, which is understandable. Nobody does, and I get that. I might be the jerk too. I also know that she ignored multiple requests to stop eating my lunch until I raised my voice, at which point she stopped. She's still mad at my treatment of her, and I could hear her talking to a girlfriend on the phone about it last night after some wine. And over McDonald's fries. Can you believe it? She slept on the couch last night and is gone all day today to get out of the house. She texted me this morning that she was able to share her leftover pizza with me a couple of days ago without making me feel little or like less of a person. I told her that situation was different because I only ate her shared leftovers after she offered, which is different than her eating my food before I do, after I ask her repeatedly to stop. She says that she is never cooking for me again, and that she will only be making food for herself and our son from now on. Let me know. To add, thanks for the opinions, everyone. I appreciate the feedback. My wife is a wonderful person in most respects, and I'm pretty okay too. It seems the thing is to always order extra fries and to be kind to one another. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, and she's definitely the jerk. She's gaslighting you after the fact, making it about you yelling and swearing, but she's ignoring the fact that you told her several different ways, all politely, to stop, and she didn't. She needs to grow up. Comment 2, not the idiot. I'm just curious what other things she does to annoy you or get under your skin. This isn't about the fries. It's about control and a lack of respect. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So here's what happened over the past week. After my wife texted me that she wouldn't be cooking for me anymore, things were pretty tense at home. We barely spoke to each other, and when we did, it was mostly about our son or other necessary stuff. I could tell she was still hurt, and honestly, I was too. I didn't like how things had escalated, but I also felt like my point wasn't being understood. A couple of days later, our son came home from school and asked if we could all have dinner together. He suggested we order pizza, thinking it might help break the ice. I agreed, hoping it would be a good opportunity to talk things out. My wife was hesitant, but eventually agreed. We ordered from our favorite local place and sat down to eat. The dinner started off awkwardly. We were all just picking at our food, not really saying much. Our son tried to lighten the mood by talking about his day at school, but it was clear that the tension between my wife and me was making it hard for him too. I felt bad that he was caught in the middle of this. After a while, I decided to address the elephant in the room. I apologized for yelling and cursing at her. I told her I didn't handle the situation well and that I was sorry for hurting her feelings. She listened but didn't say much. I could see she was still upset, but at least she was listening. Then she surprised me. She apologized too. She said she didn't realize how much it bothered me when she ate my food, and that she should have respected my request to stop. She admitted that she was being stubborn and that she didn't want to back down in the moment. Hearing her say that made me feel a lot better. It felt like we were finally on the same page. We talked more about why this issue kept coming up. She shared that growing up, her family didn't have a lot of money, and sharing food was a way they showed love and care for each other. It was a habit she carried into our marriage without really thinking about it. I hadn't known that before, and it helped me understand where she was coming from. I also shared some of my own background. My family was the opposite. We each had our own portions, and taking someone else's food was seen as disrespectful. It was a small thing, but it was ingrained in me from a young age. We realized that our different upbringings were clashing in this seemingly small but significant way. We decided to come up with a plan to avoid this kind of conflict in the future. We agreed that if she wanted some of my food, she would ask first, and I would do the same. We also decided to order extra fries or whatever side we were getting, so there would be enough for both of us. It seemed like a simple solution, but it felt like a big step forward. The next day, we put our plan into action. We went out for lunch, and when we ordered, we got an extra side of fries. It felt a bit silly, but it worked. We both had enough to eat, and there was no tension. It was a small victory, but it felt good. As the week went on, things started to get back to normal. We were talking more, and the tension was easing. Our son seemed happier too, which was a relief. I realized that this whole situation had been harder on him than I initially thought. We made a point to spend more time together as a family, doing things we all enjoyed. One evening, my wife and I were sitting on the couch, and she brought up something that had been on her mind. She said she felt like we had been drifting apart lately, and that the fries incident was just a symptom of a bigger issue. She felt like we weren't as connected as we used to be, and that we needed to work on our relationship. I agreed. I had been feeling the same way, but hadn't known how to bring it up. We decided to make more time for each other, to go on dates and do things we enjoyed together. We also agreed to communicate better and to address issues before they blew up into bigger problems. By the end of the week, things were looking up. We were both making an effort to be more considerate and to communicate better. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. I felt hopeful that we could get through this and come out stronger on the other side. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!